is going to read our meditation.
Instead of a meditation, I found a seasonal poem. It's called The Christmas Life, and it's by an English poet called Wendy Cope. And what inspired her to write this poem, she heard a young girl, aged 8, say, "If you don't have a real tree, you don't bring the Christmas life into the house. Bring in a tree, a young Norwegian spruce. Bring hyacinths that rooted in the cold. Bring winter jasmine as its buds unfold. Bring Christmas life into this house. Bring red and green and gold, bring things that shine. Bring candlesticks and music, food and wine. Bring in your memories of Christmas past. Bring in your tears for all that you have lost. Bring in the shepherd boy, the ox and ass. Bring in the stillness of an icy night. Bring in the birth of hope and love and light. Bring Christmas life into this house." So may I wish you all the compliments of the season. God bless us, everyone.
Thank you. Well, today our speaker is none other than our own Jim Spivey, the spark, really, behind Open Circle. It says here, the soothsayers say your days are definitely becoming longer and brighter now, since we're all still here. He's talking to us about beliefs, why they are necessary, how they are formed, why some are destructive and some serve us well. How beliefs that don't serve us well can be changed on conscious and other than conscious levels. Jim's background is in medical imaging electronics, with interests and studies in personal change processes and techniques, personal computers, motorcycles, cars, experimental aircraft, ultralights, and many, many other things. Jim.
Okay, can you hear me? So the talk is about beliefs. And what I would like to do is ask you to participate with this. After I read this, and I would like for everyone who would like to repeat it with me. Let me be a blessing to those I contact in every way, on all levels. I'll say it once more. Let me be a blessing to those I contact in every way, on all levels. So now if you would with me. Let me be a blessing to those I contact in every way, on all levels. One of the interesting things about communication is that whether or not we're saying exactly the same thing, there are many other types of communication in our body language and our tone and many things. So one of the things that I would also like to say, we're still here. We think. But are we real? See? Maybe we're figments of each other's imagination. Get into those different dimensions is awful confusing. It's quite appropriate at this time to examine our beliefs. The ending of 2012 with the beginning of 2013 the end of the Mayan calendar that was prophesied as doomsday, the end of the world. We're at Christmas, New Year's, gifts, all these things part of our beliefs, early teachings, how we have changed from those early teachings, and many more. We're indeed in a time where things are ending and beginning. The Mayan calendar did not predict the end of the world, but was a tool to show that there are repeating cycles that occur through time and in time. If you were to see, it was pointed out to me by Margaret that the calendar that we see on almost 100% that we think is the Mayan calendar really isn't. That's the Aztec calendar. And the Mayan calendar makes a lot more sense to engineering people because it shows like gears within gears of turning things and representing cycles. The Mayans observed and recognized patterns of cycles and patterns of patterns. Many people were able to mix their beliefs with what that civilization left and recently concluded that the end of the world would not exist today. And some people believe they could prophet and prophesy end of the world prophecy. They may no longer be prophets in their own country and may no longer be profitable. If you would, make yourself more than comfortable now. Make yourself very comfortable. We're going to do a recall process of guided meditation back to a time earlier in your life. So if you would adjust whatever you need to do, your physiology and your mind, to make yourself more comfortable, I'd like to take you on an imaginary trip. Imagine that you're coming down from a mountain climb or from a hillside, and you're headed toward a running river. And you hear it in a distance, and you know you're getting closer. And the closer you get, the more attractive it seems to you. You hear the sound of the water moving past, you see the banks, and you see there's a small bridge. But that little bridge can't take all the baggage that you're carrying in your backpacks, what you've been lugging around. So as you approach this little bridge, this little footbridge that sways across the river, you know that there's time to shed some of these things that you've been taking for granted and thought you may have to carry. Either you knew it, and some things you didn't know. But it's time to make choices. You will carry only a couple of the essential things, just those things that are really important to you across this rickety bridge. So you make stacks of things. You put them in places that if you want to, you can come back and you can get them later. But now it's time to go across the bridge. And as you go to cross the bridge and you feel your way across, you get to the point, partway across, where you see that there's a rock in the stream. There's a big rock. And you notice how the water separates as it goes around it. And then it remerges after its diversion. That's an interesting symbol in some ways. And all of a sudden you realize that there's something you were carrying. It's not really that important. that it's time to make changes. You no longer believe that you have to have some particular things. And it's a freedom about it. There's a freedom about letting it go, turning loose, letting it go overboard, let it go downstream. You feel so much lighter and better after you release this. And as you come to the other side, you notice how beautiful it is. Along the banks and the fields, the woods, and you see a pathway. You see a pathway going along, and you follow it so that you come to a structure. It's a peculiar structure, something you've not seen anything quite like before. So you approach it, you notice that even though there's light and it's easy to see, you don't see a way to get into it. But something within you tells you to just put your hand in a particular place on the building. And as you do, it takes your imprint. Your imprint. And all of a sudden there's an opening. And you go inside to this beautifully lit, beautifully decorated place. And as you go inside, you notice there are certain rooms with signs on the doorways. One of the doorways says, "Come inside," because it's something that is special for you. You feel secure and at home now. And you find it easy to make yourself very comfortable. And you find that you can access something within you, something that you remember, a state of mind when you were a young child, of wonder, curiosity, happy to be alive, joyous. As you remember the times when you were filled with curiosity and the excitement of just being alive, learning, you were emerging into your life. Recall when you could not wake up without feeling excited, and excited about what you would learn that day. Remember, feel that excitement of just being alive. Maybe of what and who you long to become. It was innate within you, inherited from the universe. Let those feelings flood your whole being. Feel it, absorb it in all of your being. Let every cell within you feel this, alive. Continue this as you reawake the excitement of being alive. Hear me now as you continue to relax and learn. Now we know that the physical body works as part of our memory storage, not just the brain. Think of people and other animals that do the same actions over and over again, becoming more proficient with repetition. Muscle memory, cell memory. Think of people and other animals that do the same actions over and over again, becoming more and more proficient. Repeated endlessly, become your other than consciousness and the reactions to stimuli. Cause and effect. We're an ongoing process of interaction with the process of the universe, multiverse, megaverse. You have become your beliefs, both conscious and other than conscious. How did you come by your beliefs? By repeating the same thoughts and patterns of patterns over and over again, with emotions attached to them that become an integral part of the body and the brain memory system. You've heard before of cell memories and how sometimes that can be released with massage or with physical therapy. They've become our beliefs have become our biophysical, our biochemical, and our bioelectrical makeup. The earliest cells on Earth, the stromatolites, had some forms that were organic and some that were not. It seems to be like where life came in. Stromatolites provide some of the most ancient records of life on Earth with their fossil remains, which date back more than 3.5 billion years. So when you consider how old you are, consider that every element within you was formed 13.77 billion years ago, plus or minus a day or two. These were our predecessors. They survived without a brain, without a conscious awareness. Recorded within us is the history of the universe. It's because we are the results of all those elements and forces that began a long, long time ago. For many eons, organisms thrived without a brain or a central nervous system. Where did it begin? So how old are you really if all the elements within you are 13.77 billion years old? When Ada Robinson talked about emergence, it's an important concept because from the beginning of that sudden expansion, let's call it, to now, it's like bingo. Here we are. Emergence is the action of many simple agents interacting in simple ways without outside control that give rise to a collective behavior or pattern or functions that are different and are an aggregate of the actions of the individual agents. It's called emergence, and it's the essence of evolution. It also uses the fractal processes. An emergent process of cells and cellular structure over time function to create more efficient methods of converting matter into energy. The organisms could transform external forms of matter and energy internally and create cell groups and then organs that became more and more efficient through specialization. We still do this transformation process every time we intake food, water, and air. So we all are transformers. We're using energy and matter outside of us, turning it into our bodies, even into our thoughts. We are here and we are becoming aware of how we came into existence. This is absolutely a unique time in our history, in history of humans as far as we know. Now, if you would consider becoming consciously aware of this as another emergent process that promotes survival, we are now consciously aware of conscious awareness made possible through the disciplines of cause-effect processing within and about us. We're moving from other than conscious awareness. We now have choices to backtrack and change less than optimal beliefs, and are now able and will select and implement new beliefs that are healthy and constructive for us. The people and the surroundings that shaped us even before birth emerged as life forms approximately 3.5 million years ago, and it's an interactive process with others, with the environment. They wanted to survive. They were driven to survive. They wanted you to survive also. They were, and we are, still part of this emergent process. Those life forms that became us did what they were programmed to do. Now you have conscious choices to select and pass on to others. We tend to become rigid with the beliefs that we hold. We often canonize many of those truths, quote unquote, indisputable facts or insights, discouraging ourselves and others from challenging and questioning them. We're willing to defend our beliefs even to death. Why? What are beliefs? Beliefs are shortcuts. They are the framework of reference for fast responses. Our conscious brain is limited in its ability to process more than one item at a time. You've heard of multitasking. Well, that's switching very quickly, but one at a time is always really processed. So the faster you can switch, the more it looks like you do. It, however, can multiplex only 4 to 8 items at a time and gives the impression we're doing several tasks at the same time. Emotions are an integral part of the shortcut process to our belief structure for fast, responsible responses essential to survival. If appropriate, allow yourself to recall a belief that you once held, but no longer accept as truth, and to allow it to come to your conscious awareness. Do you still believe in Santa Claus? Do you still believe in the Tooth Fairy? What are others that you've made changes in your belief systems about? We come into this existence with some of the brain-body pathways wired. It's like a map with the major highways already built. As all the rest of the details are programmed into us with patterns similar to the survivors who programmed us. Your surroundings, your family, your tribe. They were and are particularly emphatic about the don'ts, these programs. And the reason that so many things were negative is because it's much more efficient to teach you the things that you don't do in order to survive initially. That's where a lot of our teachings stopped. Now we know there's other ways that we can look at life instead of the negative ways and the don'ts. But those don'ts assured your continued survival at that time. Some of those beliefs were not founded in fact, and some of these it is time to set aside. There was a couple that got married, and after, on the first time that she baked a ham, the husband noticed that she just automatically cut off about a third of it. And he said, well, why did you do that? She said, I don't really know. My mother did that. So she said, well, let's call. So they called the mother and said, I don't know, my mother did that. So they called the grandmother. And the grandmother responded, well, that was because that was the size pan we had. We didn't have a larger pan. Consider that religion and science has emerged from the same source. Both come from the emergent drive to become conscious. Both seek and work to explain the cause-effect relationships in our world, universe, megaverse. Both exist to explain ways to assure individual and group survival. It's interesting to realize that religious practices repeat their beliefs through the use of hypnotic rituals over and over again. Some several times a day, some less frequently. Now allow your other than conscious awareness to make conscious to you other obsolete belief systems that no longer serve you at this time in your life. You're safe in this environment. We always seek safety and security. That's the reason cause and effect is so important. That's why it's such a tool. It can help us predict survivability. Let this allow you to have a sense of increased self-trust and feel the self-empowerment as though you were a child again, as though you were small and young and enthusiastic about life. Increasing the happiness and clarity and a renewed sense of purpose. Purpose is so important. Passion for that purpose, or those purposes. The spirituality and optimism. If you continue your life today, you will become more consciously aware of what your other than conscious already knows. Because your other than conscious is composed of the patterns and recognizes the patterns that have been in existence for all those millennia, those billions of years. The other than conscious already knows who you are, who you truly are. You're a child of the universe, embedded with all the knowledge and the characteristics of the universe. So before we pass judgment on others, know that we all have the same heritage as children of the universe. We are all alike. We all have all the aspects in varying degrees of the worst and the best of every one of us. The differences in the way we are wired serves to create variety so that the most adaptable survive and life continues. We're all connected and serve certain purposes. And realizing this, let's accept constructive changes in our beliefs now. You made the choice to be here today. Because of the things that I've been exposing you to, part of your brain has been rewired already. Time to cross over the bridge. Leave your crap behind. And leave it so it is no longer controlling you. If you choose, you can rewire it back to the old way, the way it was, by practicing repetition of the old patterns. That choice is yours. You're always in control. As you return to cross the bridge back, feel the renewed energy, the knowledge, the awareness, the renewed zest for life, the renewed power you feel in your own life, feeling great, looking forward with anticipation to the best of your life. Let's close with this, and I ask you to repeat again. Let me be a blessing to those I contact in every way, on all levels. Say with me, please. Let me be a blessing to those I contact in every way, on all levels. Thank you for your participation. If people would like to ask questions, or there are one thing I will add is, there's some unique and pretty simple ways to change the effects your belief system has had on you, and also to change your belief systems as they exist today. Some of the techniques are through neuro-linguistic programming. Some are through hypnosis, EFT, and there are others. So if you have a belief system, something that's part of your belief system, that you feel like that you can't overcome by yourself, there are other people to help you. So just to let you know, any questions?
Question is, where's the mic?
Since I got it first, well, that's the first question. At times it seems rather obvious which beliefs to change, which ones seem to be less constructive, and other times, at least I have difficulty knowing which are the beliefs that really serve me and which don't. How, in your, I don't know, philosophy way of looking at things, do you decide which no longer serve?
If something is causing you not to be able to express or to be who you are 100%, then something is able to be changed. To live fully, I guess you would say, or live in the flow of life itself is the way I would respond to that. And some of the things that some of our beliefs might be impeding even the recognition of what things could be changed that would be constructive for us. So if something is blocking this, one of the techniques that I would use is going into a quiet state and giving myself the suggestions that as I clear my mind, something will pop into my mind that gives me the clue or tells me what it is. And then I would address that. David?
Yeah, my question is more of a comment maybe, but it seems like beliefs are like a holding pattern that humankind needs to hold for a while until something readies in the personality to go to the next belief system, and then the next one, and then the next one, and that part of the problem in our culture of human beings is how to feel free to let one belief go to the next one.
Yeah. I think of things as the things we're programmed with initially. They become part of it's like an architectural process where the foundation is laid early. We learn to speak certain languages, even to speak at all. And then we learn certain patterns to interact within our group for safety, security, and because that allows us to survive. It's like remodeling a house, let's say, or a building, and I'm not sure that we can ever get rid of the foundation that our belief structure was first founded in, part of which is survival. We might get over everything except survival. Then the question would be, how do we recognize, as Tim was saying, how do we recognize those things that are limiting beliefs? And I think that if we get locked into certain patterns of always responding and believing in a certain way, that we have to examine those things. And we have to examine the very basic concepts that we were taught. And because of science and technology and philosophy today, we can combine these things so that we have a continual restructuring and reprocessing and regrowth process. That's my thoughts about it. Is there any other comments or questions? Alice, there's your mic.
Pain, discomfort, anxiety, worry, fear are all indications that your belief system, my belief system, is not working for me. This works on the physical as well as the mental level. And by the way, Margaret, where are you? You forgot us gluten-free people. Yes, I realized about August 1st that gluten was not to be part of my belief system anymore. So that's part of my belief system now, is that we're all going to be happier without gluten. Anyway, but I think if we're not walking in joy, there is something missing or something that we need to let go of.
And it can be improved.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I would like to, also I would like to throw out this. When we were going through this, did you realize any experience or any belief parts that you hadn't recognized before, perhaps? Go ahead.
In the words of Nathaniel Hawthorne, happiness is as a butterfly, which when pursued is always beyond our grasp, but if you will sit down quietly, it may alight upon you.
Okay. Is there someone who has an idea of something that came to the mind now? That besides Santa Claus and Tooth Fairies? John?
There was a mention of how do you know when your beliefs are no longer productive, something of that sort. To get down to the crudest biological level, nature has a way, I think, of dealing with things that are old and decrepit and no longer functioning. It's called death. And I believe that spiritual or mimetic or belief systems or religious ideas or whatever you might call them undergo the same biological cycles that living things do as well. That when things no longer are productive, they die. And any of the beliefs that we have, if they're not keeping us alive and keeping our civilization moving forward, will die, and we will die along with them. So we have a responsibility there, obviously. But
Good observation, yeah. One of the interesting things in studies now is about how to extend life forever. One of the interesting things, though, is that we cycle, and in a way that is, we live so many years, and then our parts wear out, and in our early years, we transfer those inheritances, those genes, and those thoughts and ideas to younger people who are still able to make changes more rapidly than we are. And the reason I say this is because if you are active physically, you will see some changes from the time that you were a teenager. At least I have. And it's programmed within us. So I think that it's part of our evolutionary process that we still should die, and whenever we're ready to do that, or whenever it's time to do that, our body does it. Barbara.
Well, what occurs to me is that most of the breakthroughs in science and medicine, and think about the Wright brothers, have been about questioning beliefs, that we can't fly, or, And recently saw a program on how the not Star Wars, what was the name of the Star Trek. Star Trek was an innovator for people using their imaginations to develop all kinds of technology. So I think one of the most important things our education system should be doing for us, and we should be doing for our children, is encouraging them to question beliefs, question facts, question reality. And it is through that, the creative process, that we evolve.
I agree 100%, and one of the ways of doing that is nurturing the curiosity that we're born with, and allowing us to understand our own strengths early. And we had a lady speak about the Montessori system, and that was one of the things that I believe is good about that, is that it encourages people to develop what they have. And if you allow people to develop as much as they possibly can, I think that they're happy, and it enhances the benefit. It's a benefit of the humankind. Len, here's
some of you may know that I worked in hospice and palliative care for many years, and people would say, how can you do that and survive? And I say, I have grown so much through other people's transference of information and growth and development. And they said, what do you mean growth and development? So much growth, so much introspective work through hospice and palliative care, through those last months of life, where people knew that their time was short and they had to look at their beliefs. They had to look at who they were, what the relationships were with this world. And most of them felt that they were moving on, that this was not the end, death was not the end, but it was just going around the corner. And so as I would talk with new families who came into the building, would say, you're making a left turn or going straight ahead, and your family member is making a right turn. And they're never far away from us. We can always think about them and be close to them in our thoughts, and relationships with them perhaps grow more precious, and we set aside all those, gosh, I wish Dad hadn't smoked cigars or wore brown shoes or whatever it was he did that irritated us. We set aside those beliefs and we move into an attitude of gratitude and opening our eyes and seeing some of the things that those who've gone ahead of us relate to us. They tell us in odd times they don't make sense at all. We say, oh, their mind's just wandering. But then we sit down, 10 years later, we're driving a car, and we think, oh, that's what that meant. You know, how wonderful, how wonderful. So it is a time of growth and development, and death is not the end. So belief patterns are important, but they're always changing. They're always growing, always evolving like the rest of us. And I thank Jim for reminding us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, from all of us. It's a great way to look forward to a new year, to re-examine all our beliefs. So we bring this session to a close. Remember to turn your cell phones back on, pick up your coffee cups and stack your chairs. And we hope to see you next Sunday when our presenter will be Mark Sconce. In the back there, the poet who delivered our mission statement today. He's a contributing editor of El Ojo del Lago and has a monthly column in it called The Poet's Niche. He is very witty, as you will find out if you come next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.